Welcome to Online Marketing Collateral for Lawyers. Today we've got a presentation that is short and sweet, but that will still give you a lot of useful information when it comes to your law firm. So for those of you who are joining us again, welcome back. And for those of you who are new to our presentations, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Let me give you a quick introduction. So presenting today will be Dan Jaffe, who practiced law both in Washington State and Arizona before he turned his attention full-time to the legal tech industry. He's also the CEO of LawLytics. He's going to jump in at the end for the question and answers section. As for me, I'm Victoria Blute, and I'm the LawLytics Community Manager. I really love helping you learn what works on the web and letting all of you know about the latest developments with the internet, with search engines, and with online marketing. And I'll be doing the first part of this presentation. Let's quickly look at today's agenda. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to discuss the importance of collateral, why you need it, how it benefits you, and of course, how it benefits your potential clients and encourages them to engage your firm. Then we'll look at some of the various options that you've got for online collateral. And this won't be an exhaustive list by any means, but it is some of the more useful pieces of collateral that you can use for your law firm. Then we'll get into how to start creating collateral, as well as answering the questions that you have on this topic. As a reminder, if you've got a question, there is no need to try to remember it until the end. You can always type in your question to the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel, and Dan will be looking out for those to answer them at the end. All right, let's get started. So, the importance of marketing collateral. Marketing collateral may seem like some kind of extra to some lawyers, but I want to point out that it can be both a really important part of your overall marketing strategy and also a very valuable part of that strategy. And there are 5 major points that I'd like you to consider when thinking about why online marketing collateral is so valuable to you. So here's the first one. When a client wants more information, what do you have to give them? And that's whether they're calling you on the phone, whether they're visiting you on the web, whether a potential client has officially decided to work with you or is just in the process of thinking about engaging your firm. You're going to want quality materials and quality content to give them. You want professional materials that speak to what you've got to offer, what you know, how much you care about what you do. And here's the thing, collateral that is well planned out and executed correctly has a very, very long shelf life, long after those materials are created. And as I said, regardless of what stage your potential client is in, you'll be able to make website visitors convert better over time by A, making those ready to convert, sure that they've made the right decision, and increasing the likelihood that they'll recommend you to other people, as well as B, keeping those who aren't quite ready to commit yet supplied with information that they can download, that they can subscribe to, and that means you're forming a relationship with them. Impress your clients, conquer the competition. So collateral not only helps to build a relationship with potential clients, but what it also does when it's done well is that it really dazzles people. It's an opportunity for you to deliver what we describe as your USP, your unique selling proposition, the thing that makes you different from the other guy or other gal. It helps to set you apart. We're really long past the time where traditional marketing works. People actively ignore ads, whether that's on the radio, on the television, in newspapers, in the yellow pages, and even online. If you don't yourself, I know I personally use an ad blocker on the internet. I do not want to be bothered by a bunch of messages that I just don't care about. But one thing that your potential clients don't ignore is material that answers their questions. And whether that's in the form of blog posts, whether that is in the form of evergreen content, and particularly with interactive materials like collateral, it is a really easy way to set yourself apart from lawyers who haven't yet figured out the value in collateral or aren't doing it well, and to really wow your potential client, both in terms of the quality of the information and the quality of its presentation. The next point I want to make is this. looking the part. So here's an either-or scenario for you. Let's say that I'm a potential client, and in this scenario, I'm looking for a divorce attorney. And there are two attorney websites that I'm looking at. In the first scenario, I have a website that's got a lot of basic information about an attorney. There's the address, the telephone number, what sort of law you practice. Maybe there's some biographical information about you. Maybe there's some information about the other attorneys in your firm. On the second website, there's that information, but what I'm also given is this: options for me to subscribe to a weekly newsletter that you put out. The ability for me to download an ebook on 10 things I need to know before I decide to get a divorce in Arizona. There's a blog with downloadable infographics on divorce statistics in my state. The list goes on. And I know I probably sound like your last visit to the optometrist when I say this, but is one better or is two better? Which of those two things inspires confidence in the potential client? Now, if it were me, option two sounds fantastic. Before I've ever made a decision about choosing you as an attorney, I already have tons of helpful information that will guide me in the right direction, and you're the one who gave it to me. And the thought I think I would have there is, wow, this person went out of their way to provide me with all of this. And really, the spoils are going to go to the attorney that's willing to shell out that information. Attorneys that inspire confidence in their potential clients are those that don't just shout from the mountaintop, "Call me now," but they really give their potential clients information that's significant, it's trustworthy, and above all, it's very useful. So, forging a connection between you and your next client. Collateral is a really good way to forge that connection before that potential client has even contacted you. You're sort of carving out the real estate in their mind when they download and read an ebook or learn new facts from an infographic, for example. By providing that material, you are both directly and indirectly providing the key benefits of your representation in a manner that's very visually compelling. Your website is often the first impression that a potential client gets about your firm. And content, whether that's good or bad, does make a major first impression on people. And that's why you want to be able to give your potential clients not only a good impression and useful information, but I think you also want to be able to give them choices for processing all that content. A recent survey suggests that more than 60% of people said that they, quote unquote, feel better about companies that write custom content on a regular basis. People make decisions about the brands that they choose based upon how it makes them feel, even if that's not very logical. And that alone could be worth law firms writing regular, high-quality content and presenting it in different forms. But one benefit in giving potential clients who visit your site various choices is that it helps to keep them engaged. If the options are engage my firm or leave, it's not really all that compelling. But if the options are call me or subscribe to a newsletter or download an ebook or check out this infographic or subscribe to this email series that I send out every week, well, now you're cooking with gas. So the last point that I want to make here, and just in the way that writing regular blog content helps to establish your reputation and to give you authority, the point I want to make here is that so does marketing collateral. And I talked about this a little bit in last week's blogging webinar, but I bring it up again because I think it's really worth understanding. We used to live in what is described as an information economy. And information economies use knowledge as a main source of value, so much so that the majority of the workforce tends to contribute to society by taking information-related jobs. And in those societies, most products that are created are information-based products. But we have really moved past that now because what we're looking at culturally is that we're living in an information society. Information societies are those that don't pay for information. They are defined by societies that rely on the creation, the distribution, and the use of information rather than relying on information as the most valuable money-making material, something that's meant to be protected at all costs, that you don't give it all away for free. But at this point, access to free information isn't only deeply appreciated by your potential clients, it's also expected that you give that away. And what that means for you as an attorney is something fantastic, because this is definitely a situation where you get out what you put in. The formula, as I see it, when well done, can be this. It's your expertise plus a keyboard and the internet connection plus the amount of information that you put out there for your potential clients. And what that equals for you is your ability to be a thought leader. So your potential clients are doing their homework online to deal with the problem or the case that they're facing. And my challenge to you where collateral is concerned is this: how many ways can you show your potential clients what you know? There are so many opportunities for you here. So let's talk a little bit about what kinds of options you have for collateral. I know I mentioned some in passing in the last few slides, but let's start with an email newsletter, for example. One of the big benefits of an email newsletter is that it helps you to maintain relationships with potential clients and to distribute information on a regular basis. So much so that potential clients will come to expect that weekly email in their inbox. Emails are also very easy to share. As an example here, LawLytics is based in Tucson, Arizona. And of course, in March, a lot of college students go on spring break. One popular place to go for spring break around here is Lake Havasu. And I saw this great blog post the other day that was 5 ways spring breakers get arrested in Lake Havasu. Now, that was written as a blog, but it would be super easy to repurpose that topic or a similar one that pertains to your practice area and location into the subject of a weekly newsletter. I've been out of college for a few years now, but I could not help but read it because I was asking myself, do I know all of these 5 common things? Do my friends' parents know all of these things? Do my friends who are still in college know that they can get themselves in trouble doing X, Y, and Z? And that makes a piece like that highly shareable and likely to generate a lot of discourse. And the end result of that is having more people engage your firm. How about this one? An email series. So if you've got some topics that you'd like to cover in depth, this could be a really good option for you. For example, if you were a divorce attorney, you could have someone sign up for a week or 2-week long series where maybe you cover one divorce-related topic every day. Or let's say you're a DUI attorney. One day could be 5 safe driving tips you didn't know, and the next day could be a hypothetical, like what happens if you've been charged with one DUI and before that's said and done, you get charged with a second one? Does that second DUI affect what happens with the first? And by the end of that week, you've got a subscriber who knows much more about the divorce process or DUIs in their state than they ever did before, and you are the person who gave them all of that information. Here's the benefit of technology. For these sort of giant series pieces, you may want to make use of email marketing or marketing automation software to help you get those messages out while also sort of reducing the amount of time that you spend sending them. And for more about that, I do recommend checking out our webinars on those precise topics. You can find those at the LawLytics website by going to lawlytics.com and clicking on the webinar section. Okay, infographics. So there are some major benefits to using infographics, and they can show up anywhere, whether they are freestanding, whether they're in ebooks or in blog posts, you name it. Somebody once joked with me that the average web reader is like a ferret on 5 cups of espresso, and an infographic is a great way to keep their attention, while at the same time providing them with useful information. Infographics are educational, they're entertaining, and they're really useful. So for those not familiar, infographics are visual representations of information, whether that's data or facts or what have you. And the idea is to present complex information quickly and clearly. So an infographic is essentially the collection of data presented in an organized way that's easy to digest. And studies show that 90% of the information that people remember has to do with what they see. And with billions of pieces of content floating around on the web, you need a way to get that information to stand out. We have to understand that the average reader tends to scan things rather than reading them entirely. However, if they scan a page and find something like, whether that's a well laid out paragraph of a blog or an infographic, you've likely got them on the hook, and they're likely to read more of what you have. And again, infographics are highly shareable. It sounds a little silly, but people sincerely like things that are fun to look at, and infographics are very aesthetically pleasing. So, ebooks. As the name would suggest, ebooks are books that show up in electronic format. And of course, it can feature numbered pages, tables of contents that are hyperlinked, pictures, graphics, just as you would find in a book, basically. And the benefits of ebooks are myriad. You get access to information instantaneously. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. You can download it right to your desktop, to your tablet, to your laptop, to your smartphone. They're also quite cost effective in that you're not paying for printing costs. No trees involved for those of you who want to be environmentally friendly. Best of all, like I said earlier, clients scan for information and ebooks are searchable. And that gives your potential client some control in what they decide they want to look for. Plus, and this is really a matter of perception here, but there's something about the word book that has perceived value, because evergreen posts and blog posts definitely have value to your readership, whether they automatically recognize it or not. But it's that word book that gives people authority. Not only that, but ebooks also help to build your brand and generate new leads. And that's all while giving valuable information to your target audience, and that's what they're looking for. So, how to get started with collateral. There are a ton of free tools for infographics and email marketing out there on the web. I definitely recommend just going to Google and looking for tools that do any of these things, because you will find a lot of resources that are either very, very cheap or free. And that's great, because this is a lot of things that you can do yourself. At this point, I want to turn it over to Dan, because I believe he's been collecting all of the questions and answers here. Dan, what do we have?
Hi, Tori. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Well, I'm still kind of compiling some of these, and one came in that gave me an idea of a couple things to show. And so what I want to do as I'm kind of transitioning here is let's just quickly change from your display to my display, and I'll go ahead and take care of that
Okay.
in just a second here. And then I want to just, while your mic is still live, just confirm that you can actually see my screen. Give me just a second here.
Sure.
Okay, can you see my screen now? It should be on the Q&A.
I can.
Okay, great. All right, so what I want to do is add a few observations and comments based on what Tori has said. There's been several questions that have come in about marketing collateral, and based on some of those questions, what I am likely to do is share my screen with you outside of this slide presentation, show you a couple examples, and then show you within LawLytics one way that you can easily distribute collateral to potential clients as they become engaged with your firm. I wanted to start with the observation, though, that when I first hung my first shingle in my own law practice in 1999, collateral had a very different meaning. You couldn't really walk into a law firm's office without being offered either a pen that was branded to the law firm, a coaster, a mug, some stationery, a pad of paper. The talk back then was about how to design the business card. Were you really going to spring and get that business card engraved? What were you going to give to your potential clients and referral sources that made them remember you and set you apart from your competition? And there are obviously many things that have changed in regards to how collateral is distributed. And I think many of those, if not all of them, are for the better. We don't have to pay a lot of money at this point to distribute collateral from our law firms to those that matter. And we can really get a lot more information rather than just the firm's branding. Although you want to make it useful so that it's something that your clients and potential clients and referral sources can use. So let me get to some of the questions, and I think that some of these other observations about how efficient collateral when done well is that I want to express will kind of come out in the answers to these questions. The first question that came in, and please go ahead and submit any additionals that you have to the questions area in the GoToWebinar control panel. And I know Tori had mentioned it earlier, but the slides will be available, as will the video presentation, at some point in the near future, and we'll let you know when that occurs. So question that came in was, what percentage boost does collateral give? That is kind of a loaded question in that it is dependent really on the type of collateral, the type of practice, and so forth. So if the collateral doesn't really add value and it's not seen, it will give no boost at all. If, on the other hand, it's widely distributed and it does add a lot of value, well then it's going to add potentially a lot more value than is even measurable within the course of a year or 2 years. When we talk about creating collateral, really the prerequisite to creating collateral that you distribute through your law firm's website is to have traffic. And so I want to make it very clear that here at LawLytics, we strongly believe that building a base of visitors, building a following to your website is the more important thing when you get started. And once you have a flow of traffic to your website, then collateral can become extremely important. And it becomes important because when you just have a run-of-the-mill law firm website or a law firm website with a blog, you're getting people to come there. You're only giving your visitors really 2 choices: to either contact you, either through a form or through calling your phone number, or going away. And by giving them additional choices in collateral, you can provide additional value that will ultimately not only be valuable to your visitors who collect that collateral, but also to your law firm, because it keeps you front and center in their mind. Let me just take a moment here. I'm going to break this display here down, and then I want to drag in a couple things here. Just to give you an example of a piece of collateral that adds a lot of additional value. So this is a website that's on the LawLytics platform, and we have permission to share this in this presentation. And what we did is we worked with this firm to create really a very large, robust, nationwide burn injury presence. And part of that is certainly getting visitors to come to the site and interact with the site. But part of it is also having them remember the firm when they leave the website and hopefully come back. And so I'm just going to show you a little bit of this, and it's pretty cool if you want to explore it on your own later on. So this is a burn injury law center that has information about literally every state in the country. And if you go to any of the states, so let's just go to California as an example, you'll find information about the law, the processes, example cases, and so forth. And you'll also find these infographics. Now, this infographic is a good example of collateral. The way that it's set up on this website in particular is such that that they're not asking for anything in return for this collateral. So if you click on it, you can open it up as a PDF, and you can save it. And so let's look at it from this view. In fact, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here, because I'm not sure how well this transmits over GoToWebinar as far as the image quality goes. So they can save this to their desktop. They can print it out. They can download it. And what it does is it gives the user of the website not only an alternative method for understanding some of the information that's on the website in visual form, which is great for visual learners as opposed to people that just want to read the content. But it also gives them something that's nicely branded to the law firm. And so you'll see down here that it gives a way to contact the law firm. It gives their website address. And so if somebody goes and downloads this, they're not necessarily going to know who that person is, but they have the benefit of getting that collateral, which is more useful than a fountain pen with the firm's name on it, into that potential referral source or potential client's hands. Next, I want to drag in, let's see, let's put this right up here. So this is another way of doing things, and this is the LawLytics website. And what actually, give me just a second. What I want to do is drag in an incognito window of this so I can show you how it pops up. Give me just a second here. So here's an incognito window which doesn't have the browsing history in it. So if I go to the blog and I go to any of the individual blog posts that we have on there, you'll see that there is this this tray at the bottom that says "Don't miss out." And if we wait long enough, it will pop up. There we go. And what this is this is just an inducement to subscribe to our newsletter. And in doing so, we are giving something of value in that we are going to send each of you who subscribe to the newsletter, but we're also getting something of value, which is your email address. And in exchange, for that, we now know who you are, and we know how to get in contact with you, and it gives us a great opportunity to continue to engage you. Now, if you're doing this from your law firm's perspective, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways if you have some kind of method and plan to follow up with the people who actually give you information. So in other words, if you're not going to send out a regular newsletter, then there's really no sense in making your visitor go through the process of giving you their information, because you're not necessarily going to follow up. You don't want to necessarily solicit them just because they've downloaded this. It might be a law student, it might be somebody, a competitor, it might be somebody else that's completely uninterested in the firm's services. And so for this reason, because there's no regular newsletter going out right now, this is the better method. But with your firm, if you have a way of communicating frequently with your clients and potential clients, it may make sense for you to collect those email addresses. The trade-off is that as you do ask for that information, people are less likely to download it because there's this perceived cost of giving the email address, even though unsubscribing is very easy. So the question of percentage boost is really kind of open. And it really depends on how much traffic you have and the methodologies that you use. If you're a LawLytics customer and you're thinking about implementing some collateral or marketing automation, let us know and we're happy to help advise you on it. Also, if you haven't yet checked them out, we have 2 webinars that we did recently. They're available on demand to register, and also incidentally are another example of collateral, because we do ask you for your name and your email address in order to consume them, and then you can not only consume the video, but you can also download the slides, which will also be available for this one. And so by creating this content, we're then creating this perpetual collateral. And so I do recommend checking out the on-demand webinars about email marketing and then about marketing automation. The marketing automation one covers more of the mechanics of how to distribute content. Let's see. So the question came in, how much collateral should we have? And that's also a very difficult question to answer. If you only have 10 pages on your website, the answer is probably not very much, because you're probably not going to have very much content, much content and many visitors by virtue of not having very much content. On the other hand, if you have hundreds or even thousands of pages on your website, it may be that you have several different practice areas that you want to get different collateral into the hands of your potential clients. And so you might end up having a lot of collateral and really creating a robust exchange of information with potential clients and referral sources by virtue of them interacting with that collateral. Question is, what is better, infographics or ebooks? Um, that really depends on the audience as much as anything. If you have an audience that needs to be more visually educated, um, audience that is maybe more consumer oriented rather than business oriented, infographics can be a great way. But you can also, in ebooks, if you're keeping the prose fairly simple, you can add illustrations and images to those ebooks, which really kill two birds with one stone. If you're business to business, so if your potential clients are corporations or small businesses, it probably makes sense to go a little bit more in depth. Most corporations, while they might think an infographic looks cool, they're more interested in getting the details of the information. And so it's really about knowing your audience. And we've talked about this in other webinars, but if you really create a visitor persona to your website, who is your visitors? Who are your visitors? What do you want them to do? What are their motivations? What are they searching for? What would they like to see, and what would cause them to come back and ultimately engage your firm? And as you go through and answer those, I think the answer will become more clear. But you can always experiment with both. So create an infographic, create an ebook, and other forms of collateral as well. How information dense should collateral be? That also really depends on the user persona. When you're first creating collateral, our recommendation is to not be overly information dense. One, because adding the information to the collateral is the most costly part of it. And when somebody is going to consume your collateral, it's likely that your online ebook or video or infographic or brochure is going to be more than what your average competitor is giving them anyways. And if it matches the look and feel of your website, if the process of acquiring it from you or from your website is smooth, it's going to go a long way in boosting their perception of your firm. You're never going to give them too much information, but there's a point where 500 words in a brochure may be just as effective as 10,000. And so that's also something that you will really want to think about and kind of refine by testing over time. What education level should the collateral be written to? That is really the same really type of research that you need to do in terms of how much and how long. The education level will really be determined by your user personas, but just like writing content for the web, and we go over this in much more detail in some of our content creation training webinars, some of which are available on demand from the website, LawLytics.com. If you have disparate audiences, we recommend catering the collateral to the least common denominator. And so the lowest level of education, make it simple enough that anybody can read it. And if you do that, you can always provide more detailed white papers and so forth later on. Next question is, do you consider videos to be collateral? Videos could really go either way. So for example, if you have videos on your website and they're just displayed and played within your website, yeah, I suppose it's collateral in that they're consuming it, but it's really just more under the umbrella of content. If on the other hand, you are making them do something to get the video and you're either sending it to them or you're sending them a link to it, that is more collateral because they've had to do something to earn it. So for example, you get done with this webinar and you're interested in checking out other LawLytics webinars that we've done. You go to the LawLytics webinar page and you look at our on-demand webinars. And in doing so, you see a couple that you want to register for. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to go to the registration page on most of them, although some of them will just have the video available for you without you giving us any information. But in most cases, we're going to ask for your name and your email address. And what's going to happen once you fill that out is you'll get sent to a thank you page, and then you'll check your email, and in your inbox will be a link to go and view the video. That I would definitely consider to be collateral. Both are very valuable in different ways. And certainly some of our video content that's provided for free benefits us in different ways, in that people can see what our videos are about, what kind of quality of information we provide, and so forth, before they make the decision to trust us with their email address. So let's see. I'm just going through a lot of these questions, and looks like a couple more have come in. Question is, how long is the shelf life of collateral? The shelf life, and I assume by that, and what Tori was getting at when she mentioned it earlier, is how long a piece of collateral, once created, will continue to benefit you and your law firm. And the answer to that is that it can really benefit you perpetually if it's created right. So for example, let's go back to this California burn injury claim process infographic. And when you look through this, the information on this is fairly general. And in the footer here, there's no copyright date. Now, there are things that could be done that would shorten the shelf life of this. So for example, if they were to put in a copyright date, then in 5 years from now, this might start looking very old. And even if the same information was still dead on accurate in terms of the description of the process, it would maybe not look as relevant to potential clients. Now, the other thing is you'll notice that this infographic is branded very closely to their website. If they were to drastically change the look and feel of their website once this collateral was created, there would be more of a jarring process going from one to another, which would shorten the usefulness or the length of the useful life of it. There are certain things that are out of their control anyways in the context of this, and especially if you are talking about certain things like the amount in question for jurisdiction, statute of limitations, various procedural rules that are subject to change. If you put those in, obviously the infographics are going to become obsolete as those things are changed. So what we recommend that you do, whether you're creating the infographics yourself or whether you're having somebody else create them for you, is make sure that you have access to the source file of those infographics. So, for example, when we do these in-house, we like to have a lot of control over them, and so we don't use any kind of online infographic building program. We use our own tools in-house, and our art department takes care of it from scratch. Because of that, we save all these source files so that if, let's say, this amount in controversy were to change, we could very easily go back in and change that for our client, or if they were no longer with us, we would be able to supply them with these source files, and they would be able to go back in and change it themselves very easily. And so if you are if you're supplying information like that, just make sure that you protect yourself going forward and you understand how to make those changes if and when those kind of changes become relevant. On the other hand, if you're just talking about a general type of law and there's no time-sensitive or law-dependent information in there, it could last for 10 or even 20 years. You might want to refresh the look and feel every once in a while, but if you create a classic design, don't fall for a design company that wants to give you too many bells and whistles that may ultimately look very dated as styles change. If you plan well and really go conservatively on the design, but generously on the information that you provide, then it can be an investment that keeps on giving for years to come. And really, even if you're a young lawyer, plan these well. If you stay in the same type of practice, they can, in one form or another, benefit you throughout your whole career. Getting down to the end of this, it looks like there's about 3 or 4 more questions left, and then certainly we'll still look for others that come in. Let's see. So somebody else asked, should I collect an email address or charge for collateral? I wouldn't recommend charging money for collateral. Most people on the internet are accustomed to getting information for free. And if your aim is marketing and getting clients into your practice, as opposed to making money by selling information online, then I wouldn't recommend charging for it. But like I said, with the email address, you have to have a purpose for collecting the email address. And if you're going to use it, then by all means try to collect it. If not, you will have more eyeballs on your information if you don't ask for an email address. Question is, what about mailing collateral? I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly. If I'm understanding that to be U.S. mail or understanding that to be email. Hang on, somebody's typing. Okay, U.S. mail. Yeah. So here's the scenario that I think that they're getting at. If you on your website say, for example, I'm an author of this book about whatever type of law in this state. We give this book away for free. All you have to do is fill out this form and we'll send it to you. Is that a good idea? And I think the answer is probably. It depends on who your audience is. It depends on how many visitors you get. Let's say, so our highest traffic customer gets roughly 15,000 unique visitors to his law firm's website each and every day. And from that are countless leads that come in. If somebody with that much traffic were giving away a bound book, let's say you spend $10 to $20 printing out a book and another $5 to mail it, including the expense of having somebody in your firm process it or having a fulfillment center process it. And those are just guess numbers, but let's say it's somewhere between 20 and 25 bucks, maybe a pop to send those out. If you have thousands and thousands of people coming through your website a day or even a month, and you're giving away this thing that looks very valuable, yeah, you're going to have a lot of people ask for it, but is it going to result in you getting more clients from it and making a profit from it? And what it could do is quickly result in you having a lot of expenses and spending a lot of time either manually fulfilling it or dealing with the orders that come in. And so the question really should be, how many do you anticipate getting? How many do you want to send out? What is the value to your firm once those are sent out? What do you want the intended recipient to do with it? So in other words, is it something that, say you have a very niche website and you're really just focused on CEOs. And I follow some of these websites that are like this. I want to know from a CEO's perspective, what are the changes that are coming up in tax law, in employment law, in other regulatory bodies and so forth that might affect my business? What should I do about it? What about insurance issues? Those types of things. If I see something like that on an attorney's website that interests me, and I get the book and I see it, and it's like this great guide for me to make sure that I have all the legal issues that I need to deal with as a CEO, not as a lawyer, taken care of. Well, there's a much higher likelihood, not only am I going to continue following that lawyer, but if I have questions or if my current corporate counsel has missed something, I very well may reach out to that lawyer for an opinion or even for direct advice or help. On the other hand, if, let's say I am a DUI lawyer and my website ranks very well throughout a large state that I couldn't even possibly cover all of the areas in the state, and I offer a book that's going to cost me $20 a pop, talking about like the Everyman's Guide to DUI or something. And let's say I get 50 people a day that ask for that book, and well, not only am I spending a lot of time sending it out, what benefit is that really going to give me for most of them? Then I have to think about, well, maybe I can limit it to people only in a certain geographic area or people that only have cases. So for example, if I am practicing, let's say in Atlanta, and I know that I want cases in Atlanta Municipal Court, well, maybe what I do is make that offer for the Defendant's Guide to Surviving DUI in Atlanta Municipal Court. Maybe I make that offer available only to people who actually have a pending case in Atlanta Municipal Court. And in that way, it really narrows it down, but the piece of collateral is so specific to them and their information is so valuable to me that then it makes it worthwhile. And so you really need to think about it. But the bottom line is an infographic like this one, if they do this and they print it out, especially if they print it out in color and it's sitting on their desk or they save it to their desktop, it's valuable to this firm in that it creates a point of reference beyond just having to go back and find that website again. But the problem with it is that it's still electronic and it's not as likely to get saved. Whereas if a hardbound book comes in the mail, then it's very much less likely, put it that way, that somebody's going to throw that book away. And in fact, they may read it or skim it and hand it to somebody else who also may see it. Highly unlikely that a printed out infographic gets passed on, although you do hope that it's going to get shared by social media, that it might get emailed around, that type of thing. And so it's a cost benefit analysis from that standpoint. Let's see. So hang on. Another question came in a moment ago. Let me take a look at that. Okay, great question here. So the question is, if you provide an extensive resource section that provides links, etc., for each state, but your practice is limited to specific states, is there a reason to create collateral for those materials as a whole to build credibility, or to keep the content as links to the source sites? I think it really depends on what the aim is. If you are practicing a type of law where you might get referrals from other lawyers in other states, and you want them to have your collateral that has your contact information on it, then it may make sense to have collateral that can be printed out. But as a general rule, I would focus more on creating collateral and getting the collateral in the hands of people that can actually use it. So for example, if you have a personal injury website, for example, that is limited to a state or a couple of states in a region, but you've managed to build it out into a national resource, for the traffic and for other reasons. Do you much like Walker Morgan has done here? Do you provide information for each state in the form of collateral, or do you just try to drive traffic to it? And it really is just a matter of, for this firm, for example, it was done very strategically to create the collateral for each state. But if, say, you didn't want cases in states that you're not located in, you're not that niche of a firm. Say it's just general personal injury law rather than something very, very specific like this area of practice. Better to concentrate where you are actually able to monetize that traffic. I hope that I answered that question well enough. I'm not sure if I did or if I got the whole context of it. So Jamie, if you do have follow-ups to that, let me know while I go on to the other questions. Question is, what forms of collateral are compatible with my LawLytics website? And so if you are a LawLytics customer and you want to distribute collateral from your website, you can really distribute pretty much any type that you want. So I'm showing you the LawLytics dashboard. We're logged in as a sample account. And so there's not going to be a whole lot of information populated in here about any specific firm, although we have a lot of sample sites. Let's say you want to create a blog post, and we'll go ahead and create a new blog post here. You can embed pretty much anything you want, whether it's images, documents, videos, other forms of collateral. You can embed forms from pretty much any marketing automation provider so that you can subscribe people to email courses. For example, one of the things that we recommend doing is, instead of just saying, here's your one-time information, have people subscribe to a 5-day course where over the course of 5 days or once a week for 5 weeks, they get an email from you that builds upon the last email that talks about something that's of interest to them. Virtually anything that you want to distribute can be distributed through LawLytics. One thing that we recommend doing as you build up your traffic and your leads is using the LawLytics captured templates feature. And I'm going to show you this. There's not much information in here at this point because this is a sample account. It's not well used in terms of creating the information. But what you do with the capture template is you can create basically an email that goes out that will link to a landing page that's specific to that email. And you can say, if you have more than one LawLytics website, which website they're redirected to. And in there, you can distribute the collateral. So for example, if you are tracking your leads using the LawLytics reporting feature, and right here we can look at live visitors, and there's no live visitors. Let's just go ahead and go to one of the sample sites so we can create a live visitor. So we'll just pull that up. Give me just a sec here. So we'll just pull up one of these old sample sites just to get somebody on the website, and then we'll go to traffic, and we'll go to live visitors, and we'll see now that there's this person that's on our website. So for example, let's say somebody's on your website and they call your office, and your receptionist answers, and they're talking about a question they have. You don't necessarily know who they are, but you know that they're on the website. They've told you that. You know what they're looking at. You can see their details. You can, from there, make them a lead if you'd like to. And once you've made them a lead, even if you don't necessarily know who they are, then you can use the lead capture template to send them an email that basically says, well, welcome to our firm. This is what we think that you should look at. Here's something of value to you, that type of thing. And in that way, you're able to distribute collateral right out of the gate to them, get information in their hands that they normally wouldn't have, get them interacting with, and really identify where they've gone in the past and where they will be going in the future on your firm's website. And let's take a look here. Another question that came in about LawLytics in particular in regard to the content is how does LawLytics collateral creation work? And all of our collateral is created through our content department, just like if you were to hire us to create substantive content or to blog for your website or starter content. Oftentimes what will happen is as we write content for a customer's website, we'll then, and visitors start coming through the website, we'll then be asked to convert some of that content into collateral. So for example, if we've written substantive blog posts for you, it's very easy to change those into collateral and then work out a distribution system. So it depends on what you want. We do all of it, other than we do not do video collateral. And the reason why we don't do video collateral is that we feel that videos are very personal in nature. They ought to have your face in them. And because our customers are distributed really around the world, it would be impractical for either us to have locations all around the world, for people to go into video studios, or for people to fly out to our office in Tucson. And so with videos, we can help you with scripting. We can help you with ideas in terms of what to shoot, how to shoot it, where to put it on your website, how to make it work well with other pieces of content that you have, and so forth. But we don't actually do that for you. But we can help you with a referral to local video providers in most cities and states. If you do want that. Other than that, if you have questions about us creating marketing collateral for you, getting it set up so that it will drip in the right way, whether you create a paywall and so forth with an email address for it or not, we can help you with all of that. So just let us know. I don't see any other questions that have come in. I did want to, before we end this, mention that post that Tori talked about ways that you can get yourself in trouble over spring break in Lake Havasu, Arizona. The idea occurred to me as she was saying that it's not necessarily the student that is going to be looking at those blog posts prospectively and saying, oh, these are some stupid things that I could do to get myself arrested or get myself hurt or get myself, whatever, while I'm on spring break. Most college kids don't think that way, but I had my parent hat on as I was listening to Tori talk about that. And from my perspective, well, so if my kids were getting ready to go to spring break, I would certainly have concerns knowing how spring break went when I was of spring break age. And thinking about your audience. So the average college student, maybe 20, 21 years old, goes to Lake Havasu City, floats on the lake, drinks a lot of beer, does some stupid things. Most of them come home not much worse for the wear. Some of them get hurt, though. Some of them get arrested. Some of them get into other situations. Imagination can run wild there. And as a parent, I think my imagination would be running wild. And so if I know that let's say my son is going to Lake Havasu for spring break, I may be looking around to see what's going on there. And if, as an attorney who practices law in the Lake Havasu area, I've provided not only an article, but some collateral that as a parent, that the parent of a prospective spring breaker in Lake Havasu could download. So the 5 top ways that your college student can get in trouble or worse in Lake Havasu over spring break 2016, something like that. Well, you go to my website as a parent and you download that. When Junior gets arrested, Junior's not going to be doing the research, him or herself. The kid that gets arrested in Lake Havasu City more than likely is going to call their parents, and it's going to be their parents that are searching for an attorney. And if they've already seen this, they already know that this particular attorney is not only thinking about it the way that they're thinking about it as a parent, but they know who that person is. Maybe they've even saved that collateral or printed it out because it's on their mind. Well, guess who they're going to go to? And so if you think outside of the box in ways like that, think about really who your potential audience is. That kind of collateral for a parent could get a lot of mileage, and it could be something that parents not only print out themselves, but that they email to their kids. They share it on Facebook. They they tag their child in it, that kind of thing. So anyways, there's all kinds of things that you can do, and content comes first. Bringing visitors to your website through content comes first, but creating the collateral to support that content, brilliant idea that goes much further than most attorneys are willing to go, and you do it, you get that extra mile, it will pay off over the long haul. I want to thank everybody for attending. Tomorrow's webinar is going to be somewhat of a negative topic. We are going to be talking about what happens if your website has gotten snake bitten. So we see this a lot where law firm websites are managed by a so-called SEO company. They're going to go out and get you links. They're going to do all these fancy tricks to get you placed on Google. And what happens? There's a Google update, and the site loses ranking. The tricks no longer work. The site crashes in ranking. It stops producing. The question is, what do you do about it at that point? Do you spend a lot of money and go through the lip service of, oh, we're doing this to rehabilitate your site with that same SEO company? Do you switch SEO companies? Do you give up SEO altogether, change websites, change website providers? The answers are not easy, and there's a lot of disparate information out there, and in my opinion, a lot of bad information about that scenario. And we have a lot of experience in rehabilitating websites that have gone through these problems from other providers and from attorneys that have been trying to do it themselves as well. And what we're going to do is tomorrow share some of those experiences with you. The overall outcome of it, to have a spoiler alert here, the overall outcome of it is going to be that there's no easy answers, but in many cases we have seen that it's more time efficient and more cost effective for attorneys to simply start over from scratch, depending on the damage that has been done to their website. And I've got examples and anecdotes from people that we've helped with this in the past. And so same time, same method tomorrow. If you haven't registered for it already and you're curious about it, please go ahead and register at the LawLytics website under the webinars link. And hopefully it'll give some good information if you're in that position struggling to determine whether your current website is subject to the sunk cost fallacy or whether it is worth working on still. Anyways, thank you all for attending. Thank you, Tori, for the presentation, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Take care.